business.
Yep.
Okay, I will call council to order for the meeting of May 20th. And in doing so, I would ask Councillor Richardson to read the reconciliation.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge our meeting place. The City of Flin City Council Chambers is situated on the ancestral lands of Treaty 5 territory. We would like to acknowledge that we also work in partnership with First Nations in Treaty 6 and 10 territories and the Red River Métis Nation.
Thank you. We'll have a reading and confirming of minutes with Councillor Richardson again.
25-72, be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 6, 2025 be adopted as received.
Seconder, Councillor Slip. All in favor? That's passed. Councillor Dallas Funk.
Check register, check schedule 25-73. Be it resolved that the checks in the amount of $1,976,576.13 be approved for payment.
I'll need a seconder there, Councillor Richardson. All in favor? Okay. And Councillor Richardson again.
Bylaw 2025-10, 25-74, be it resolved that the bylaw 2025-10 being the bylaw governing estimates to set the mill rate for 2025 for general purposes and uncontrollable purposes be read a first time and passed on first reading.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson. All in favor? Okay. Councillor Hanson.
Bylaw number 2025-11, 2575. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-11 being a bylaw of the City of Flin Flon to provide for the making of a business assessment and the levying of a business tax in conformity with the Municipal Act, Section 306, be read a first time and passed on first reading.
Seconder, Councillor Slip. All in favor? Okay, that is passed. Business tax, Councillor Slip.
Bylaw 2025-12, 25-76, be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-12 being a bylaw to provide for the levying and collection of a fee in lieu of business tax for the 2025 tax year as required by Section 7 of bylaw number 2025-11 be read a first time and passed on first reading.
Seconder, Councillor Richardson. All in favor? Here we go. Councillor Dallas Funk, please.
Bylaw 25-13, be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-13 being a bylaw of the City of Flin Flon to provide for raising monies by special tax to augment the Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund created by bylaw number 2376 be read a first time and passed on the first reading.
Councillor Richardson seconds it. All in favor? It's passed. We will turn over and we'll see Councillor Hanson.
Bylaw number 2025-14, 2578. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-14 being a bylaw of the City of Flin Flon to provide for raising monies by a special tax to augment the General Reserve Fund created by bylaw number 27 of 88 be read a first time and passed on first reading.
Seconder, Councillor Slip. All in favor? It is passed. And Councillor Richardson.
The City of Flin Flon Policy Manual 25-79, be it resolved that the city rings, city employees and volunteer firefighters policy number 6.08 be replaced with policy number 6.08A.
Okay, we need a seconder, and that's Councillor Dallas Funk. All in favor? And that is, and myself, that is passed. I forget everything.
You forget to, you never raise your
I'm
hand.
going to do that. Okay, and now Councillor Dallas Funk.
Thanks. Auditor Statement 2024-25-80. Be it resolved that the auditor's statement for 2024 be received and filed.
Okay, Councillor Hanson seconds it. All in favor? And the Animal Control Report, Councillor Slip.
Yes, Animal Control Report April 2025. Be it resolved that the Animal Control Report for the month of April 2025 be received and filed.
Seconder, Councillor Richardson. All in favor? Thank you. And that is it for official business. So they want to make, oh, before we move on, there's probably always something, but like, especially now, Annie. Wow. Wow.
Very good.
Wow and wow. And I couldn't believe, I've seen all the plays, I've enjoyed every one, ever since my kids were involved when this, when it started. And of course, before then I wasn't around when they were doing Glee Club stuff. I've enjoyed performances, and I never would have thought that coming up here to this country that I'd ever want to see something like that, and yet I could never stand to miss any one of them. And this last one was stellar, absolutely stellar, and just in flawless in its performance. And I know they were having trouble making ends meet at first, and it was tight and, you know, difficult to get things going, but like the people step up, they volunteer. You watch this and they said, nowhere you're gonna go see a more professional show than we just saw, so, you know, kudos to them. Anyway, I will.
I've heard it, any New York production people had seen. I was told that.
Amazing. Adjournment?
I moved to adjourn.
Okay. Questions?
I got a couple of questions here. I guess about this mill rate, I think, did I hear correctly that the mill rate is not, I know we have the budget meeting Thursday, but I believe the last time I was here, I heard the mill rate is not going up, is that correct?
Yeah,
So it's just gonna stay the same type
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
as last year.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, let's uphold.
Mill rate stays the same, but the special service levy goes up a bit, right?
Yes, and there's already a
Yeah.
public presentation.
Contrary to that, yeah, there is a difference
Yeah.
there.
How much is the special
286.
service levy going up?
286, I believe?
No, I think
No,
it's
two-
184.
Or, sorry,
180.
184.
Is that for the year or?
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's,
Not a thousand before, like
No.
people were saying.
so $184 total for the year.
Yeah.
That's not very much. So let's talk about a couple other quick questions I have, just for some clarification here. There's one resolution here, that the city of Flin Flon provide for the making of a business assessment levy of a business tax. Well, what is this specifically?
okay, there's two of them that are related to business tax. The first one is, so it's a business levy on any business that is operating, for instance, like, let's say downtown, pick a business downtown on Main Street, or downtown on Main Street, and there is a business tax. So, and the other one that talks about taxes is the home-based business tax, which is the second one. Because there's two here. One is for the fee of the business taxes, and the other one is a fee in lieu.
Okay. And this policy manual, is there a copy of it in this handout?
The policy itself is in the handout, yes.
Okay, so I'll just get more from what I have.
And Rob, just so for your information too, the special, the equipment reserve fund is $75,000. And the reserve, general reserve is $220,000. So that's money that we allot every year to go into reserve. So one is for a general reserve and one is for equipment reserve,
Okay, so you said the equipment reserve fund, what was the other one, sorry?
general reserve.
Yeah. That's for when the proverbial crap hits the fan.
And one goes into general, what was the other one, sorry?
Equipment reserve.
And I
That's
missed
when
the
the
amount.
grader hits the fan.
75,000
That's
for
when the grader
equipment
hits the fan, yeah.
and 220 for the general.
Okay.
And we're required to do those by the government, are we not?
We're not required to have an equipment reserve. We have it so that, we've had it because for years we've purchased equipment.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so we've always put money aside so
Yeah.
that we weren't just hitting
Yeah.
the taxation every
It's-
year
yeah.
for equipment
Yeah.
purchases. The general purpose reserve, yeah, it's a requirement that we
Yeah,
have that.
okay, I knew one of them
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, and same
So
with
I'll ask a
the
question.
utilities, we
Yeah.
have to have a reserve.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question here because I want to know the answer now. We're doing a bit more leasing. Does that affect the amount of general reserve or equipment reserve we need?
Yes, and it also affects the amount of money we're putting into the equipment reserve. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure that it was closer to $200 a year instead of 75.
Yeah,
But I've brought that down quite a bit because we are leasing, and that is an operating expense rather than a bucket of money that comes up.
I thought one must
Yeah.
affect the other as we're doing it. That's what I was wondering.
I think it was
Okay.
like 200,000 last year or the year before.
No, there was about 600,000 in the equipment reserve,
Yeah.
because we put, that's what it
Yeah.
was,
But-
it was 300,000 a year.
Yeah,
yeah.
I knew it was like large.
Yeah,
We used to put a lot more into the equipment
Yeah.
reserve
Yeah.
fund.
yeah.
So, and by leasing, we don't have to carry depreciating assets for it.
That's right, not until we get to a point where, because we have an option to purchase after a certain
Yeah.
amount of time.
Yeah.
Once we get to the buyout, if we choose to
Yeah.
buy out,
Yeah.
then that becomes a capital purchase.
Okay,
And the buyouts actually, for both of the pieces that we're leasing, are really good after
Oh,
the
okay.
5 years. So if we're in that
so it's a
position then.
win-win,
Yeah, it frees up the cash flow.
yeah.
Or if the equipment
Yeah,
goes bad, you can
Yeah,
just
you
give
dump
it
it,
back.
yeah.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
currently, right now, something goes down, right? They just
Yeah.
call CAT and then
Yeah.
Torma comes and fixes it.
Sorry, I didn't mean, I know it's not my question.
We just
but you
hijacked your
brought that
question
up.
here. I'm sorry, guys.
That's it for me.
I'm trying to get ahead of Eric a little bit.
Eric, you got something?
You can try.
I will never get there, Eric. I will never get there.
It's all good. So I want to know a little bit more about this amendment to the City of Flin Flon Policy Manual, replacing policy 608, 608A. I'm sure it's somewhere in the package, but the package is so dominated with budget stuff that I haven't quite tracked it down yet where it is within it. So what are we looking at with this change in policy?
It's for employee appreciation after 25 years. So right now, we're offering $2,500 cash. However, they can choose to purchase a ring with that up to $2,500. So you can buy a ring up to $2,500 or get cash for $2,500.
Where before it was just the ring, right?
Just the ring.
And that's for 25 years service?
Yes,
Yeah.
so they have the option to either purchase a ring up to a value of $2,500, or they could take the payout of $2,500, and that is a gift after a 25-year employee.
The rings have gone up because they were gold. The value of them is so great that as a municipality, it would be irresponsible.
No.
People want the option.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is we had to cap that policy.
Yeah.
Okay. Any particular reason why it's being done right now? Is there anything that's kind of like inspired the change, or is it just let's just do this and get it over with, or like what are we looking at?
We had already made some changes when we did the last union contract, and so this is just, we are always updating policy, and this is just continuing with that.
I think we do have 3 employees right now, though,
Yeah.
that are at that mark.
Yeah,
I think it was 3,
Yeah.
am I
it
correct,
was
Joy?
around 3.
About 3, yeah.
It's beneficial to the employee. They can choose.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of service.
Okay, wanted to talk a little bit about the community cleanup last week. I know there was some turnout. I don't know where it was level to expectations, but I know there's a second one scheduled for later this month. Are there going to be any changes, any sorts of lessons learned, or anything that you want to stick with from the last one? What are we looking at for that?
I don't have an answer.
Just pick up the garbage.
Yeah,
So
Don't litter in the
the
first
one
place.
difference is gonna be, instead of a barbecue, we're giving out drinks and freezies, I believe. You can still pick up bags until that time. Well, frankly, anytime right now. If anybody wants to pick up garbage, they can absolutely come to City Hall and pick up garbage bags.
And gloves.
And gloves, yeah, thank you, Council Richardson. And just as usual, inform us where the bags are and people will pick it up. Our staff, the employees currently at this time know when they're driving around, if they see the garbage bags, that if they're in the middle of, say, one of the hills, they know that that's what that is. They're really identifying what it is, and they're picking it up quite fast. It was good, we were a small group on that Monday, but we definitely picked up a lot of garbage, so it was nice to see. And we had some community members come also that picked up tons of garbage down in the Walmart area. And of course, we have the one community member that's been going around town and picking up garbage almost every day. So she came to the barbecue and we gave her a swag bag to show appreciation and thanked her for her tremendous hard work.
It was a small group downtown, but to your
Yeah.
point, there's the Walmart group, there was a group at McIsaac
Yeah.
School.
I
It
forgot about them.
turned into I think it was a success, and I think the town, there are still places, but I think the town is looking pretty good. We want to clean up around that Canadian Tire area a little bit, but besides that, it's looking a lot better than it did.
Definitely.
So it's more so like, not necessarily like one event, but it's been more groups of people getting together and doing cleaning kind of on their own
Yeah.
time whenever possible.
And that's really what the goal is, you know, to get groups out there like the McKaiser group, the Walmart group, and
Yeah.
whoever it is. I must say the Northland Ford group who went out and cleaned up some, but there's others too, so it's good that if we could just get people to throw their garbage in the right spot, it would be even better.
In the bin.
In the bin.
It is not hard. Not next to the bin, not near the bin, not like you went for a three-pointer and you missed and you never bothered to get your rebound in the bin. Okay, wanted to just make absolutely sure of the time for the budget meeting Thursday at 7 p.m. Perfect. And I know this was mentioned last meeting, but I've got a memory like spaghetti strainer, so I just kind of need to make sure it was there. Wanted to check in on something that caught my eye, I think after the last meeting, I think it was May 8th, where we got that really nasty like orange haze kind of over the area. I've reached out to HUD Bay and they're currently investigating whether or not that haze was because of tailings dust that came off the facility, not forest fire smoke like a few people thought. I know they're investigating it. They've reported it to provincial authorities in Sask because that's where the tailings pond is, and they're doing a little bit of monitoring work around Creighton, around the tailings pond. I'm wondering if anybody from HB has talked to the city or made them aware of the situation or anything like that in the last few days. I think it's been about a week and a bit since that was first reported, so has that been brought to anyone's attention?
I wasn't here, so.
Hasn't been brought to my attention as CAO.
Okay. Would there be anything the city could even do in that situation, or is there a policy for it? Is there?
Well, HB has, I don't know if they still have their monitoring stations on top of Red Square, but they had air quality monitoring stations right up until they shut the smelter down, remember? We used to get updates pretty regular. And I think that equipment's still all up there, so whether HB is still using that or not, I don't know. But I wasn't in town, so I missed it, I just saw pictures.
I did see photos of the, it was a really nasty wind coming from the west, and you could see it, some people took photos, I don't remember who, if I did, I would credit them here, but took pictures from the Creighton side where it was more or less clear, and you could see the dust coming up over the HB compound and up over Flin. It must have been really nasty uptown. It was nasty on the east side of town where I was. But I again, just didn't know if that had been something that had been officially brought towards the city by the company or anybody, or any complaints issued or anything like that.
I would imagine that once they have some results from what they're looking at in terms of research, that they may talk to
That's
us.
the first I hear.
They've certainly been open about the Schist Lake, what they,
Yeah.
right? They've been open and certainly communicated with us at that point, so hopefully there would be some communication with regards to this as well, once they're done their research.
Okay. Got a call from a reader earlier today about costs for storing remains at one of the city columbariums. They say that they were charged an extra fee for having the interment done on a Saturday, but that they didn't see or don't think that there was any city presence there, that it was mostly the funeral director who did it.
Yeah.
Just wondering if any comment or any sort of clarification would be in order.
So it is in our bylaw that on Saturdays, Sundays, or statutory holidays, there is an extra fee. I received an email from her, actually, it was after 5 o'clock, but I saw it on my phone today. And so I will be addressing her email tomorrow.
Okay, and just so I'm clear here too, the cost, I think the $750, I haven't done too much digging into it yet because this was just brought to my attention today. But would that cost still be there if there isn't a city worker or anybody present there to like participate in it? Like let's say the funeral director opens up the niche, puts the remains in there, closes it, and there wasn't anybody from the city there, does that fee still apply?
Which fee are you talking about?
It's an additional fee for Saturday, Sunday, and statutory holiday.
It's for the cemetery.
burials. And so that's actually what I'm looking into.
Okay.
I saw her email, and so the bylaw itself doesn't differentiate between columbarium and
Graves.
burial, right, and graves. So I'm going to take a closer look to see how that fits. And also sometimes just because we don't have a city employee there, doesn't mean that someone else isn't doing some duty that they may end up charging us for.
Okay.
So that's all a part of the bigger question as to how we're gonna move forward and what we should continue to do with that particular charge.
Okay. Fair enough. Just figured that it would be brought up, and better to not make assumptions, right? One more question, and I know that the next city council meeting that's scheduled is gonna be the one with the public hearing on Tuesday. And of course, there's been discussion about this. There's seemingly an online campaign to get people to come to the meeting to chime in on the proposed bylaw change. Before that meeting takes place, is there any particular thing about the proposed rezoning or the bylaw or anything like that that anyone would want to make sure the public knows in advance of the meeting?
What I would really like to say though about a public hearing, not maybe so much about the proposed, because we will address that, but the public hearing is in place for the community to have the opportunity to voice their concerns. It's an opportunity for them to come present what their concerns are with us listening. During a public hearing, we're actually not supposed to engage very much with the community. We're supposed to be there to listen, take the information, take their concerns, and then either stick with our decision, change our decision, or say no completely. So that's the point of it. I learned that very well during the pub hearing, the public utilities, that we were not allowed to say anything when everybody was speaking. Because then it just gets into a back and forth, and it doesn't give free space and respect to the community to voice what they want. It's not whether we think it's right or wrong, it's what gives the community complete opportunity to tell us what they want. So we're very aware, and we're looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say.
So the facts are, it is not a debate.
That's right, it's not. It's for us to listen and for people to tell us what their concerns are in a respectful manner, but also for council and admin staff to also give the same respect to the community, to give them that space to have free speech. It's concerning. I've been in public hearings in this chamber, and I have no problem saying it. I've been in this chamber where there's been public hearings, and that was not the case, that it went as a back and forth, and then the community's opinion and concerns get lost in that debate. And I know as this council, we don't want people to feel like they're not being heard, or really that we're taking their concerns serious. So we really want to hear what they have to say without that debate component, and giving as much respect as possible on either side.
Lynn, if there are objections,
Yeah.
they'll write them down, but it has to be done that night?
That is correct. If there are objections,
Good point, Mike.
they will need to be written down by the end of the public hearing. So.
And those are filed, and then I think by law, the city has to provide them along with any sort of, like when this goes to Winnipeg, it has to be logged along with it, right?
That's
Yeah.
correct. And this time it's different because it's the Planning Act and not the Municipal Act. And so it would actually go to the Provincial Planning Department in Thompson.
One thing that, and to kind of further a little bit to your point, that it'll be a public hearing, it won't be a public talking at each other situation. It's more or less going to be the same sort of format as the meeting that took place with Pub last summer.
Yeah, the
Basically
water
just-
rates, same system,
Okay, so
except they
basically-
won't be here.
Yeah, well, of course, it's not a pub matter, but if, it would just be like you present what's going on, and then people from the public
Yeah.
ask questions, okay.
Yes.
And in that case, like, not to, I don't know where this would frame about the being respectful and not like having it back and forth, but if people ask questions directly to council about the bylaw change or about any sort of plans, do you have the chance to then respond, or is it just, here's a question, and then we'll file it away and we'll get an answer to you later?
I think if it's possible, we'll try to answer them on the spot, if it's possible, but it may not be. But some questions might be very simple as to like why, what is the rationale behind doing it? And if we make a description of what the rationality is behind doing it, I'm prepared to do that. To say whether my argument is more important than the argument of the people on the other side, I'm not prepared to do that. You know what I mean? I will state what the position is of the, you know, of putting the motion forward, and then, you know, then we'll listen to what we get. So if they're not understanding it, we'll try to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that don't understand it.
Okay. The other thing is too, one of the things that keeps getting mentioned to me about, from people who are talking about this rezoning or the proposal and have issues with it, is that they think that this is going to basically mean, maybe not the destruction or deforestation, but at least extensive change to that park and to that property. It may be too early to ask this because the bylaw isn't down yet. Definitely there isn't any sort of building or deal or anything like that in place as far as we can tell. But if this bylaw does get through and the changes are made, what would this end up doing to that park and to that area, do you think?
You're talking about 100 feet by 450 feet. So there's still lots of park behind it. The trail is still behind it. All that, the walking trails, all that are still there. The access to the bush by snowmobile.
What about
Although you're
that
not
disc
supposed to
golf
go in-
course, does it interfere with that?
What's that?
That disc golf course that they have built there?
Some of it would be affected.
Well, they
yes,
just have to
because
move it back.
what's on, I'm not so sure I got my directions right, but I think it's the east side of that. There's a line where the water runs in from Cliff Lake to our water treatment plant. That line is, you can't be affected, no property can go to that. There's a road adjoining that, that still has to be intact. So it has to be on the opposite side of that. So from there to the creek would still be there. It does affect some of the holes from the disc golf. Yes, it does.
Because I know they're pretty concerned about this.
What's that?
I know that they're really concerned about this.
Well,
Yeah,
they can move those, I mean.
I guess, and so it's, in terms of facts, yes, it does affect a certain, it affects a certain area. And to your point, you asked the question, is there a development ready to go ahead? Not to my knowledge. This is in the possibility to enable some of that sort of thing to happen should there be a need. And if there is a need, like what we're talking about in terms of the city's need, I'll explain it right here, is that we need some taxes. And we keep tearing houses down, so we're looking to infill homes. We're looking to try and find somebody who will build apartment blocks, and we're also looking to see if we can find deep parcels of land where people might be interested in building newer homes all in a row. All that to reduce the amount of taxes people are paying by having more people paying those taxes. So that's the general theory behind the whole thing, and I don't think you can explain it any much more than that on any parcel of land, okay? That happens to be a place that's special to some people who've been looking across their road at poplar trees for a long, long time. I understand that feeling. But those are the juxtapositions, if it were.
One more question on this, and I think that'll do it for me. I also know that one of the things that keeps getting brought up by residents there is the closure of a footbridge across the creek. And I know that this was something that the city was looking at remedying if you received that big, the provincial grant, the GRO, I believe, grant that was pursued, wasn't received. I don't think there was anything, at least in capital plan for this year in the budget, about fixing that bridge. Is there still a plan to fix that either this year or in the near future?
So, Lynn, do you want to go?
No, go ahead, you start.
I'm like, you go, I'll go. So we do have a report, an engineer report of all the bridges in Flin. So that's not the only bridge that needs repairs. There's a bridge on the boardwalk as well. So to make that bridge what it was before when the previous council closed it, to make it a drivable bridge, we're looking at least $1.8 million, probably more now because that report is over 2 years old. So we're probably like $2 million to drive that space. To have it a walking bridge at this point is about $600,000. Once again, that was 2 years ago, so don't quote me on that. So that $600,000, everybody knows in the last 2 years we've really focused on just getting our budget balanced, getting our utilities and reserve going. and jockeying around with the loss of the grant in lieu. Now that we're stabilized, for example, this year, we've pumped a lot of that money into paving and infrastructure. We're doing a project from the 100 stairs to the end of 3rd Avenue Hill, to line all the pipe there where the road is bumpy. We're gonna have paving there, and that storm sewer relined, that is our job. So we're kind of at the point where it's infrastructure, paving, or the bridge.
We're
and-
prioritizing.
Yeah, and we can appreciate what the community and that neighborhood feels. I get it. But that doesn't say that it's not on the table for
Yeah.
next year. I think it's very, very possible for next year that will be on our budget. We're hoping to get more grants in paving to help us, and also not have as many large projects as this year. Between Church Street, 3rd Avenue, the RCMP, the sidewalks and the paving, that's $2 million, $2.5 million in summer projects. So next year, I think it's very possible to have that on the budget to have. So it's not that it's off the table, we just had to prioritize this year,
It's
as
not.
Councillor Slip said.
It's not forgotten.
Yeah, we have the report, and we appreciate the community, and we would love it for them to come as well and ask us those questions, and we will have a conversation with them to let them know that we hear them and we agree with them.
Okay. I know I said one more question, but this usually happens. You mentioned something and it twigged something, so I got another one. You mentioned RCMP, and that made me think about the proposed and often mooted Flin Flon RCMP new headquarters. I know that's supposed to be over between the community hall and the High Bay compound, and I know that there's been talk about getting that project going again and again and again. And I see it when I come out of the community hall weight room, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on there. So what are we looking at for that situation right now from a city perspective?
It's the
Well, we're
province.
starting to understand how we're going to put in the water and sewer.
Okay.
And so, they had told us last year that we would have shovels in the ground last summer. So that didn't happen. But I suspect with the amount of engineering work that's been going on, that there will be shovels in the ground this year.
Okay.
It's still
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. I will, I'm sure I'll keep an eye on it coming out of the gym at some point. I'll see if there's like sawhorses or something set up or whatever. The early stages of construction. But,
Sticks and streams.
So just before wrapping up, with one quick question. After we have this, this public hearing, how long will it take for them to make a decision on what direction we're gonna be going after that's done?
Well, part of it depends on what happens at the public hearing, right? I mean, that's also an opportunity for people to put in objections if they don't, if they object to what
So
we're
is it
doing.
usually a month or?
No, I'm actually hoping that we'll be able to do resolution, second and third reading, shortly after that public hearing, so within 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
And a second and third reading isn't necessarily a guarantee that it's going to be like approved through the planning act from Winnipeg, right?
The public hearing doesn't have, the financial plan doesn't have to be approved.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think, were we talking about the budget, or were we talking
How
about?
about that public hearing?
Okay, or, yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, the budget or the Kingsway.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Kingsway,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, just a minute, let me refocus my mind. So that is completely dependent on the objections, and I do not have a plan for second and third reading at this point, because we need to see what happens.
Okay.
And council will need to deliberate after we see the objections.
So is it safe to say roughly about a month after, or?
Yeah, that would probably be safe to say.
Okay,
Okay. It vary, obviously,
Yeah.
depending on what the
Yeah,
situation is.
it'll be at least a month.
okay.
Okay. All right, that was some confusion delayed
Yes,
there
sorry
for a
about
second, like, all good. It's almost like an Abbott and Costello moment, like, I don't know, third base, but with slightly higher stakes.
Ladies, did you have a question tonight?
Actually, I have